The road to my mother's house smelled like autumn, damp leaves, cinnamon air, and the kind of chill that made you crave comfort. My son, Noah, sat in the backseat humming softly, his small hands clutching the dessert I'd made that morning, a simple chocolate pie. He was proud of it. I was proud of him. It was our first Thanksgiving since the divorce, and I wanted it to feel like healing. My mother, Margaret, lived for tradition. Her house always looked like a magazine cover, silverware polished, candles lined perfectly down the dining table, and not a single crumb allowed to exist uninvited. Presentation is love, she always said, but what she meant was control. When we arrived, she greeted us with her practiced smile. "Elena," she said, kissing my cheek, "you look tired." Then her gaze slid to Noah. "And there's my little man. Did you remember to say thank you for being invited?" Noah nodded politely. He was only 8, gentle and well-mannered, but too shy to talk much. My mother never liked shyness. She called it weakness wrapped in silence. Dinner began with laughter that didn't feel real. My brothers talked about work, my mother corrected their wives' recipes, and I sat there pretending that the warmth in the room was genuine. Noah tried his best to fit in, eating the turkey and mashed potatoes I'd served him, even when he was clearly full. Then came dessert, my mother's prized moment, pumpkin pie, pecan bars, and the apple tart she'd been bragging about all week. Plates were passed, forks clinked, sugar filled the air. Noah's eyes lit up. He waited until everyone had their slice before whispering, "Grandma, can I please have some pie?" Her smile froze, thin and sharp. "Dessert," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is for those who finish their dinner. You didn't earn it, sweetheart." The table went silent. My chest tightened. Noah's fork stopped midair, his face falling in slow motion. "I'm sorry," he murmured. I was just full. My mother shrugged and cut herself another slice. "Then maybe next year you'll try harder." Laughter bubbled awkwardly around the table, as if no one wanted to confront her cruelty. I sat there, my hands trembling under the tablecloth, tasting shame where there should have been sweetness. That night when we got home, Noah whispered, "Mom, was I bad?" I hugged him tight. "No, baby," I said, swallowing the tears. "You just have a good heart. Some people forget what that tastes like." And in that moment, I made a silent promise the next time my mother served dessert, it would be my table. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Noah's face, that small, puzzled sadness no child should ever wear. I kept replaying my mother's words in my head, each one carving itself deeper. He didn't earn it. I'd grown up earning everything: affection, attention, even praise. My mother had a system. You got love when you made her proud, silence when you didn't. It was how she ruled our home, with politeness polished to cruelty. The next morning, as I packed Noah's lunch for school, he asked if Grandma was mad at him. I told him no, but my voice cracked. He believed me anyway, because children always want to believe their mothers tell the truth. Later that day, while scrolling through social media, I saw my mother's Thanksgiving post. The photos were perfect: her silver table, the golden turkey, the smiling faces of my brothers and their families. But Noah wasn't in a single picture, not one. The caption read, "Grateful for a family that knows gratitude." My stomach turned. My son, my kind, innocent Noah, had been erased. That night, I opened an old box of photo albums I hadn't touched in years. I flipped through childhood Thanksgivings, me, standing beside my mother, always smiling too tightly, always a little outside the circle. I remembered the year I spilled cranberry sauce, and she made me skip dessert to learn respect. I was 10. The memory hit like a punch I'd been waiting decades to feel. It wasn't about pie. It was about the way she made love conditional, like sweetness was something you had to prove you deserved. For the first time in years, I let myself feel angry, not just hurt. My mother's voice had shaped me, but it wasn't going to shape my son. Not anymore. A week passed. My brothers called to say how lovely Thanksgiving had been. No one mentioned Noah. No one mentioned the missing slice of dessert or the silence that followed. I realized how normal this cruelty had become, how well everyone had learned to ignore it. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. That night I sat on my couch, watching Noah draw at the table, happy, safe, unbothered. And something inside me settled with clarity. My mother believed love was earned. I was going to prove it could be given, freely, fearlessly, and sweetly. And maybe, just maybe, I'd make her taste that lesson herself. December came dressed in soft lights and forgiveness, but I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Every store window glimmered with warmth, and every ad talked about family. But the word felt heavier than ever. I had spent years trying to please my mother, bending myself into the shape she approved of. This Christmas, I decided I'd stop bending and start building something new. I called her the second week of December. "Mom," I said carefully, "I thought maybe this year I could host Christmas dinner." There was silence on the line, the kind that makes you feel like you've stepped out of order. She said finally. "You've never hosted before." "I know," I replied, steadying my voice, "but it might be nice to start a new tradition. For Noah." After a long pause, she agreed. I could almost hear her smirk through the phone, already imagining me failing to reach her impossible standards. That was fine, let her underestimate me. I spent the next 2 weeks planning everything, not to impress her, but to reclaim the holiday. I made lists decorated with Noah and filled our little house with laughter and light. For once, everything wasn't symmetrical or perfect. The ornaments didn't match, the tinsel was messy, and the cookies were crooked, but the air was full of love. Noah and I spent a whole day baking a pie together, not just any pie, our pie, a caramel apple dessert with a sugar heart in the center. He named it the slice I deserved. I didn't correct him. He was right. On Christmas Eve, the house buzzed with music and the smell of cinnamon. When my mother arrived, she looked around like she was inspecting a museum piece. "It's cozy," she said. Her tone wrapped the word in judgment, but I just smiled. Dinner passed without a fight. My brothers laughed, Noah played carols on his tiny keyboard, and for once I didn't feel small. Then came dessert. Before anyone could move, I stood and carried the pie to the table. "Tonight," I said softly, meeting my mother's eyes, "dessert is served first." Gasps and laughter filled the room. I sliced the pie and set the very first piece in front of Noah. "Because in this house," I continued, "love isn't something you earn, it's something you're given." Noah's smile lit up the whole room. My mother's fork paused midair. She didn't say a word, but in her eyes I saw something new, not approval, not anger, but realization. The kind that comes too late. After Christmas night ended, the house felt softer than it ever had before. The laughter lingered in the walls, like music that refused to fade. My mother had left early, her coat buttoned tight, her words clipped and polite. But there had been a flicker in her eyes I'd never seen before, something fragile, almost human. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty for standing my ground. I felt peaceful. Noah went to bed that night with sugar on his lips and joy in his voice. Before falling asleep, he whispered, "Mom, today felt like a real Christmas." I kissed his forehead, realizing that this warmth, this safety was what I'd always wanted to give him. Not the perfect house, not the perfect family, just love, honest and unearned. A few days later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address, just my name in my mother's familiar handwriting. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a short note, written in her careful, slanted script. "I see what you did." He looked happy. "I don't know how to be that kind of mother, but I hope you teach him better. No apology, no admission." But for her, that was a confession. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, the note trembling in my hands. Tears came, not the heavy ones of anger or regret, but the light kind that wash things clean. I realized I didn't need her apology anymore. Her silence no longer had power. Weeks turned into months. Winter melted into early spring, and life found its rhythm again. Noah and I kept baking together cookies, muffins, and always our pie, the caramel apple one with the sugar heart on top. We made it for birthdays, rainy days, and sometimes just because we wanted to celebrate being okay. One afternoon, while we rolled dough together, Noah asked, "Do you think Grandma will come next time?" I smiled gently. "Maybe, but even if she doesn't, we'll still have dessert." He grinned, and in that grin I saw everything I had fought for. a childhood not defined by conditions but by kindness. That night, as I tucked him in, I whispered, "My mother used to measure love with slices, but you taught me to serve it whole." And somewhere deep inside, I knew the sweetest revenge wasn't in proving her wrong. It was in breaking the pattern, in giving my son the kind of love she never knew how to bake.